Welcome to Performance Driven Living, the podcast where we question everything. We don't tiptoe around tough topics, we walk right into them. Not to provoke, but to get closer to what's real. You might not agree with everything you hear, and that's okay. The show isn't about being right, it's about being real. These conversations are meant to stretch your thinking, challenge assumptions, and spark something deeper. The views shared are those of our guests and may not reflect those of the host or team. And while we dive deep into health, performance, and transformation, this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor before making changes to your health or lifestyle. Take what lands, leave what doesn't. But whatever you do, don't stop questioning.
We are back on Performance Driven Living. I'm your host, Mark Young, and I am joined today by a very interesting gentleman who I say he's interesting. He went to Ohio State. He's probably not that interesting, as I just learned a moment ago. Sorry, go blue. But I am here, and I have to tell you, Bob, I'm going to read this because my team puts together these introductions for people that I could never be so eloquent as to actually come up with this. So you're going to get me reading your bio here. Today's guest is Bob Jones Jr., regenerative farming leader and CEO and co-owner of the Chef's Garden, the family farm pioneering nutrient-dense, soil-first agriculture for the world's top kitchens. For more than 4 decades, the Jones family has rebuilt soil health and flavor through regenerative practices. Alongside his brother, farmer Lee Jones, Bob has helped the Chef's Garden serve restaurants in all 50 states and 17 countries while championing food safety, consistency, and true chef-farmer collaboration. His work links soil stewardship to human health and sustainability, reshaping how kitchens source and serve vegetables. It's a privilege to learn from him today. Welcome, Bob Jones.
Thank you.
That's like quite the intro, right? Did we get that right?
Yeah, the power of editing will help. But yeah.
Oh, does that need some editing in
Not
there?
at all.
Oh,
Not at
all. Well, I'm glad to hear that because I'd hate to see that we had to do too much editing. No. You are Bob Jones, though, right?
I am Bob Jones.
Okay,
yes.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So here on Performance Driven Living, we talk about stuff that typically defies normal because that's who I am. I just defy normal. But I'm always curious to learn everything I possibly can. And I probably know a few things about soil depletion and mineral deficiencies, the how we've destroyed fulvic and human acids in the soil and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But one of my biggest things is that I believe that we as a nation, and I'd love for you to just speak on this topic, and I talk about this stuff all the time, that we are nutrient depleted.
Absolutely.
And even if we ate the right foods, we're still nutrient depleted because the food itself isn't what the food needs to be or should be, could be, was perhaps in the past. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think so at all. Agriculture in the United States and around the world today is broken. It's broken both economically and agronomically. And the medical community has told us for decades that increasing our consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables is good for our health. Didn't take a rocket science to figure that out.
Right.
What they don't say, and what most in the medical community don't understand, is that not all carrots are created equal. There are varietal differences and how you grow that carrot that make huge differences in the quality outcomes of that fresh produce, and then consequently the outcomes of human health as a result of consuming either really good carrots or really lousy carrots.
I laugh when you say not all carrots are created equal. Literally, I've used that exact same quote multiple times when talking about nutrient depletion in soil, right. Because we not only have issues with not all carrots are created equally because they weren't grown in the same soil, so it's not the same nutrient dense soil. And I always use the phrase that we are what we eat eats.
Correct.
That I'm not what I eat, I'm also whatever I ate something as well. And if that's a cow that's eating whatever. We talk about
grass-fed versus
grass-fed
corn-fed,
versus
etc.
corn-fed. Exactly. Like if my cow is eating corn, it's a different meal than a cow eating grass, and it affects my biology as well. But the same is true for vegetables, fruits, anything that grows.
Anything that grows. It's amazing how linear soil chemistry and soil biology is in healthy soil. It mimics the same chemistry profile and biological profile of healthy plants, of healthy animals, of healthy people. That relationship, not only the presence or absence of things like magnesium, calcium, phosphorus, potassium, not just whether they're present or not present, but the relationship to one another is drastically important in healthy soil, as it is in healthy plants. We do a lot of sap analysis. So we will harvest mature leaves and young leaves off of a tomato plant, a pepper plant, a spinach plant, and we will harvest the sap. It's like a blood test for a plant.
Yeah.
Different than a tissue test. This is a sap analysis. That then will guide our fertigation programs where we can actually feed that. We want to feed the soil and let the soil feed the plant. Then we'll take that sap analysis and see how healthy or balanced or imbalanced that plant is, and then add foliar applications of the nutrients that it might need to get it balanced so that it can be of optimum value for the folks that actually consume it.
So you're using the biology of the plant to measure the health of the soil, much like we would use the biology of the human to measure the value of the food they're eating.
Everything is wonderfully interconnected.
Inputs and outputs, imagine that, right?
Yeah, we're just trying to go back to the Garden of Eden.
So it's funny you say that, because actually my next question that I had for you, I don't know if I'm trying to think of his name. I don't know why I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I know several people who are in the mineral enrichment world that, pouring humic and fulvic acid into your plants as they grow to create better whatever. Right. Like 100% on board with that. And I know a couple of different companies that do that. But I'm going to say this because we got into a conversation. I had him on my podcast, and for the life of me, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Maybe my team can remind me. But it was a conversation about exactly that, like mineral and how do we remineralize soil. And we got into this whole conversation about sharecropping and rotating soil, about never putting the same the same vegetable, if you will, on the same plot of land year after year after year, because different plants pull in different types of minerals from the soil.
Sure.
So we've got to crop rotation, not sharecropping, different thing, but crop rotation to make sure that we're always moving things. Can you speak to the importance of that? Because one of the things that I understand from our current farming practices here in the U.S. anyways, is that we just beat the soil to death with the same thing over and over again.
The fastest growing acreage in the world today is desert land. So we have literally farmed soils to death where they're void of any biological activity. It's called desertification. And we are fast running towards that as a society. And it impacts not only the health of the food that we're consuming, climate change. Regenerative agriculture is a relatively new term. And it is in essence about ecosystem function. How do we better understand and then better impact ecosystem function? So that is soil biology and soil chemistry. How do you make the land and the crops growing on that land more resilient to climate changes, to differences in higher temperatures, less rainfall, heavier rain events when they do come? Part of regenerative agriculture is not only crop rotation, but also cover cropping. So certain vegetables will pull certain minerals out of the soil and they become collectors of those minerals. And that's, if we're devoid of iron, we want to eat more beets because beets are accumulators of iron when they're grown healthy. Healthy beets have a much higher rate of iron in them. Cover crops as well, different species of cover crops, different types of cover crops are accumulators of calcium, magnesium, silicon, selenium. And so we want to grow multi-species covers, so 15 to 20 different varieties in a plot. Our farm is 400 acres, not a huge farm, but only 100 acres of vegetables each year. The balance of the farm has multi-species cover, and then I rotate around the farm so that not only am I not corn on corn or corn beans, corn beans, corn beans. No, we're going to use that plot of land 1 year, and then it is going to be revitalized for 3 years before I come back to vegetables again. It goes back to Leviticus. If you let
You
the
took
crops,
the words out of my mouth.
If you let the fruit of the trees drop to the ground every 7th year, then the following 6 years you will have better quality and a better harvest from that land. And we just felt like, well, if 1 out of 7 years was good, then if we flipped that and said, okay, let's harvest 1 out of 4 years and let that ground not only set fallow, because we want a cover crop on there. Every leaf of every plant, whether it's cover crop or the cash crop, is a simple solar panel. We sell energy. We package it in green beans and spinach and lettuce and tomatoes.
Interesting, yeah.
Everything we need to grow that crop, the sunlight, the nitrogen in the air. If you remember from junior high biology, what we're breathing is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% of about 100 other elements. So the nitrogen is free. If you grow a cover crop that is a legume that has the ability naturally to harvest nitrogen from the air, places it on nodules in the roots of the soil so that the next year, if I'm going to grow tomatoes in 26 on a specific plot, I'm going to grow a legume cover crop in 25. Accumulate nitrogen so that I don't have to add synthetic nitrogen. I'm only using naturally occurring nitrogen. Why would we ever buy nitrogen when the air is 78% nitrogen?
Seriously.
Harvest it, use it. It's a very natural process and product.
So you brought Leviticus in, and literally before you said that, I was about ready to say, on this show, we've had so many conversations about ancient wisdom now being proven right by modern science, and then we look at it like a discovery when in fact I'm like, I think that
Kind of been around a while.
That was around a bit ago, and in so many different ways. Like we've talked about it here, even in talking about mixing fabrics and how every fabric has frequency, and frequencies are emitted, and how do we do this? We've talked about it with laws of attraction, the do unto others, right? That biofields that exist within our own resonance attract people with similar resonances, right? And I laugh, I'm like, so do unto others is actually a science lesson. It's not a spiritual lesson, in fact, at all. What is your background? I mean, was it a biblical perspective that made you think this? Was it a science-forward education that ended up just happening to echo ancient wisdom?
I think it's probably been an evolutionary process. I was raised in a Christian home, went to church every Sunday, Wednesday. Grandparents were faith-filled folks. So that's always been a part of our life. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Fair.
My father, 20 years ago, sent me to, this was a pilgrimage, right? He sent me to Minneapolis in December to take a 3-day soil chemistry course from a veterinarian. And I said, what did I do to you? Nobody goes to Minneapolis in December on purpose.
Correct.
Much less to take a soils course from a veterinarian.
Where you can't even see the soil at that time of year.
Right. The veterinarian was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dan Scow. He was in a large animal vet practice with 12 other veterinarians. They were seeing, over the previous 20 to 30 years, increasing incidences of what they felt were human health maladies in large animals. Kidney disease, heart disease in a dairy herd. And it really just didn't make sense because it was getting progressively worse. They were looking at the quality of the feed and then the quality of the land where that feed was grown. And they found a thread going through there. And they actually harvested hay off of healthy soils and took hay from unhealthy soils and put it in front of the dairy cow. And they would sniff them both, eat the healthy hay, and walk away from the unhealthy hay. They did that 3 days in a row. Then they took the healthy hay away. The cow came in and smelled the unhealthy hay, went off of feed for 3 days until it started to starve, and then it would eat the unhealthy hay. So in some people might say the animal was smarter than we were because we don't walk away from the unhealthy food, partly because of the addictive nature of sugar that's in everything and all the different conversation. Very interestingly, this veterinarian who taught this 3-day soils course, the first thing he said was, I will teach you all the chemistry, all the biology that I have learned over my 40-year veterinary career. However, unless you have a relationship with the Creator, you'll never get it. You'll never understand it. And the first 30 minutes of every day of that 3-day course was a devotional. And he wanted to ground people in biblical principles. And then we're going to talk about soil chemistry and soil biology. That was the first time that I've been to professional conferences for 20 years. And I'd never heard anyone tie that back and say, wait a minute here. There is a connection. Everything is created out of order. You cannot create order out of disorder.
You're not wrong.
And so the sections of an orange, there are so many patterns in nature. And it just became about better understanding natural processes and then doing everything we could to accentuate those processes, working with nature instead of fighting nature. Well, it's the difference between a living concept and supporting life versus supporting death. In conventional agriculture, we use fungicides, herbicides, insecticides. The sides, all of those kill things.
Correct.
Versus life. Soil biology, soil chemistry, healthy soil, healthy plant, healthy people. Promote life and capture energy. It's really about the study of energetics, right? And how do we how do we maximize photosynthetic efficiency and ecosystem function and crop resilience to yield a better tasting and a more nutrient dense finished product?
And wow, like all of that, like that mic drop moment on all of that. Like I couldn't ask you to say that in a more eloquent way, to be honest with you, because there is this connection that I'm always trying to get back to, and that is, I'm a Christian man. I'm also going to always link back to what does source and origin truth look like, and then reverse into. I loved what you just said though, and if you can expand on that a little bit, that is the idea that life creates life, death doesn't create life. We're here at the Metabolic Health Day conference, and I was having this conversation with somebody recently who got a cancer diagnosis, and they were, talking about, I was talking with Naisha earlier, in fact, a friend of mine's dad got a cancer diagnosis, and when I was talking about naturopathic type means to deal with cancer, one of the phrases I said was, if I found a mouse in my kitchen, I wouldn't go poison all the food, because that would get rid of the mouse, but it would also kill everybody in the family too, right? Like, we're not trying to do that. All we need to do is create inhospitable environments where a mouse wouldn't want to live. Make sure the food's not present, starve the mouse out so that he goes and finds another place to be, right? But this idea that in our modern, if I can say, medical philosophy, we have this tendency to want to poison and kill and eradicate everything. And to your point, the sides, right? Like, we're talking about glyphosate. Like, oh my gosh, like, why is that even still a thing? Like, why haven't we outlawed that? But we're always trying to kill things. Like, we're pesticiding everything to get rid of the bugs because the bugs are going to eat the plants. Never in a million years is anybody stopping and going, yeah, but we're killing the plant too. Like, we're killing it with what we're trying to do to make it. Why do we keep doing that?
Because we don't know what we don't know. There are very well-intentioned farmers and very well-intentioned physicians who worked. I had a conversation yesterday with someone, it was a cancer survivor who had worked with an oncologist from a well-known hospital system in the US, 40-year career, had no idea whatsoever that diet impacted his work.
Yeah, that just blows my mind.
The energetics piece, so this same Dr. Scow asked a very simple question. Why do insects have antennae? And the answer is because they are seeking and picking up and reading electrical frequency. A healthy plant puts off a completely different frequency than a unhealthy plant. So the insect actually is nature's way of preventing an unhealthy plant from reproducing seed. It's genetic selection, or the whole process of if the soil is healthy and the plant is healthy, the frequency that that plant emits is different, and the insects will not come to that crop. They just won't be there. They will look for something else. So it's back to frequency.
Explain that to me real quick. You're saying that the insects would not attack a healthy crop.
Absolutely. And I've seen it
Really?
time after time after time. Accidentally, did it myself. I've learned more from my mistakes than ever from my successes.
So insects, you're saying that the frequency that's emitted, I mean, again, the whole purpose of me doing this entire podcast is to learn things, and I just learned something. So you're saying that if a plant is healthy, which I agree with you, it gives off a frequency which would be different from an unhealthy plant. Fair.
But a plant, so let me give you the example.
But I would imagine a mosquito would still attack somebody who's healthy, not somebody who's unhealthy.
I'm over my skis there, I don't know.
I'm curious that, I mean, what an interesting philosophy that healthy plants don't need pesticides because they repel insects just themselves.
Absolutely correct. If soils are healthy enough and the plants are healthy enough, I will use less pesticides, not as a philosophical decision, because I don't need them. That's the whole goal.
But it's a plant's immune system.
The healthier the plant is, the stronger its immune system. If we get enough sleep and water, we get our rest and we're eating right, we are stronger and we can resist. Our immune system is stronger and we can resist the viruses and the bacteria that are present in the environment all the time.
And this just becomes a problem compounding a problem, because if you're creating weak crops, then you attract bugs, and if you attract the bugs, you have to pesticide them, which causes you to have weaker crops, which causes you to attract more bugs and use more pesticides.
A crop and soil and a human are either getting healthier and healthier and healthier, or sicker and sicker and 100%. Sicker. There is no such thing as status quo.
Correct.
You're moving in one direction or another. I had a block of tomatoes. We were fertigating those tomatoes, and we wanted to feed them calcium nitrate, which is a conventional calcium and nitrogen fertilizer. Someone forgot and left that on overnight. So the nitrogen got way too high in the plant, which waters out and dilutes the sap in the plant. Remember the blood test sap? The next morning, 12 hours later, now there's tomatoes 5 feet apart. We left it on too long on this row, and we turned it off appropriately on this row. 12 hours later, the variety of tomato, or same variety, but the tomatoes that we had put way too much nitrogen in them were absolutely covered with aphids. The other tomatoes 5 feet away, you could not find an aphid. Wow. And I was like, oh my gosh, Doc Scow was right. Because we had so diluted the sap in that plant, and the aphids went to that plant. An aphid pierces and sucks the sap out of the plant. That's how they eat. I've also heard Doc Scow say that if you grow really healthy crops, and that plant is resistant to and does not attract, not only does it not attract, it gets so healthy that the Brix is much higher, the sugar content. If an aphid were to pierce and suck that plant, the sugars are so high they would ferment in the gut and kill the insect. So yeah, this is all very natural process, and it's about us understanding it. Unfortunately, modern agriculture is about yield. Produce yield as cheaply as you possibly can. Tons per acre. The problem is that dog won't hunt.
Well, I want to pivot us a little bit. So two things I want to still discuss with you, and the one is going to be Let me actually start with this one, and that is the amount of time. We're getting crops from all over the world. And one of my pet peeves is we're putting preservatives on fresh things so that it can last for weeks before it even shows up on a grocer's shelf. Like, what is that about? I mean, tell me, is that just we can't produce enough food in the US? Is that it's just more efficient to buy it from China? But how in the hell do I get a pineapple to grow the way that it needs to grow across the world, and it shows up to me 2 months later in a grocery store fresh?
Right.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, how?
Let me unpack that as efficiently as I possibly can. Let's start by saying this. USDA tells us that fresh produce loses 10% of its nutritive value every day post-harvest.
Yes.
USDA also tells us that the average grocery store produce is 14 days old before it hits the shelf.
Right.
Which is why when we go
Compound
to the
that down
grocery
10%
store,
per day.
right. When we go to the grocery store and we take stuff home, it lasts 2 or 3 days and it's rotten. It just doesn't work. You're getting water and fiber because the nutritional value has been depleted over time. That's the first thing. The second part of this is it's all about economics.
Right.
Right? Americans won't do field labor. It's just not going to happen. We've been using a visa program on our farm since '92 called the H-2A visa. It's a temporary agricultural work visa. Folks can come in from other parts of the world for 9 months and work on the farm. In Ohio, in 2025, the Department of Labor mandated wage rate was $19.57 per hour.
Yeah.
Okay, in Mexico, a person harvesting the same crop is going to get $6 a day.
Right.
So I'm at a huge competitive disadvantage to start with. Now I have to have niche markets like restaurants that really appreciate and will pay for a consistent supply of high quality product to allow me to do what I do. Very, very fortunate. We've been selling to restaurants for 40 years. They taught a bunch of dirt farmers the food business. Most farmers today don't even understand they grow food because they're in commodity markets, corn,
Correct.
beans, wheat, those kinds of things. They don't have a direct connection to the end user, and that is very valuable because I can get a feedback loop that helps me understand, well, what varieties do you want? What,
Right.
you know, if you're growing lettuce, Bob, would you also grow tomatoes? Oh, so you're growing lettuce and tomatoes. Will you now grow basil for me? Sure. We have over 800 varieties of edible plants on the farm. All of those are because a chef asked for them sometime over the last 40 years
Yeah.
and taught us about what true quality really meant, mostly from European trained chefs
Yeah.
because they were used to that model. We had that model here 100 years ago.
Yep.
The regional distribution of food was not a thing. We had pockets of truck farms all over and family grocery stores in every town had their grocery stores. Now we have box stores every fifth or sixth town,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still.
and
I'm
we're
trying to think
probably
of-
going back to that regional distribution of food. You're seeing
and
a
it's
lot
the
more
whole
dairies.
Buy
with-
it at your farmer's market, right? Like if it's a, there used to be. I live in South Florida, and there used to be a farmer's market, like an open air market every Sunday, and it was right a couple blocks away from where I lived, and it was great to just go down there in the morning, buy what you want. It was all locally sourced. It was all local farms, and it was local honey. It was all this other kind of stuff, and it was great. It was like Sunday morning, go down to the market, buy what you want for the week, because you
At the
replenished it
very
next
least,
week.
it may not have been regeneratively grown, but it was fresh. It was from the
Correct.
farm,
Correct.
and you were supporting a family farm.
100%.
So there was a product quality
But there's
advantage.
a speed to table thing there too.
Absolutely.
Though. It was like this came out of the ground earlier this week, and if 10%, 10%, like I want to make sure that I'm getting something that's speed to table. And I don't. And again, I would say it's organic because they all said it was organic. But that brings me to my next question for you, and that is, what is organic? Because there's so many different things that people are talking about. This is organic, that's organic, and I'm starting to believe that people are just saying it's organic to sell it. But it's questions that I get asked all the time are things, like, is organic worth it? It's so much more expensive. Is it worth it? And what does that mean? Because it's not necessarily regenerative. Organic meaning what? That it didn't get sprayed with a pesticide? I don't know, because I've heard conversations about organic is still getting glyphosate, and organic just meaning non-GMO. Like, what does all this mean? I mean, you're more knowledgeable on this topic than anybody else I've talked to.
It's a question that I get as well. Our farm is not certified organic. It is certified regeneratively managed, which I believe, or we believe, that it is the best of both worlds. Let me start by saying this. The organic farming community in the United States plowed some really, really hard ground for the last 50 years. They were ostracized. They were called everything in the book.
But what does it mean to say organic? Like, just what's that word mean?
In my opinion, organic is based on the principle of exclusion. You exclude all synthetic inputs, fertilizer, pesticides, which include herbicide, fungicide, insecticide. You exclude all of those negative things. That's a good thing, but we believe it doesn't quite go far enough. Let me give you this analogy. I've been married 37 years. My wife is a saint. She was a single parent because I farmed. And so she raised our 3 children, 2 of which happen to work on the farm now. So we're very blessed. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I never physically or verbally abused her. None of those things made me a good husband. They just made me not a jerk.
Correct.
Being a good marriage, any good relationship is intentional. It takes thinking about what does this person need from me? What was my wife's love languages? I needed to better understand that. And it took 20 years of those 37 years to figure that out. I was a slow learner.
Right.
Organics, just excluding those negative influences is positive, but it isn't enough.
Right.
So cover crops to capture that light energy from the sun and put it into the soil, to improve soil chemistry, to improve soil biology, to rotate those crops. Used compost. What are those things that we need to do besides just eliminating the negative influences that make it better? What are those intentional things we can do to help improve the quality and the flavor of the product that comes off of that farm? Just excluding negatives isn't enough.
So I'm going to ask you, I mean, for the sake of time, I want to make sure that I'm being respectful of your time as well, but I could sit and listen to you talk about this all day. It's actually making me hungry. But the question that I have for you is, for a listener who's listening to what you're talking about, like you specifically have a farm and predominantly your crops are going to restaurants, as you said, and very farm to table kind of setups. What does the average person do? Like, how do we know what to believe? Like, I mean, I hear this all the time. Like, somebody just made a comment to me about, only buy your vegetables at Walmart. And I was like, well, why would I buy my vegetables at Walmart? Well, because Walmart refuses to buy vegetables from China. I'm like, oh, okay, like that, I get it. Like, maybe that's a step in the right direction. But I'm like, I just think there's so much confusion for people. And I'm going to say that, so I come from everything from the standpoint of our thoughts and our words lead everything that goes on, our biology, our psychology, our ultimate outcomes. And I say that when people get into this world of supplementation and they're in eating and organic and non-GMO and grass-fed, but now it's got to be grass-finished, like all of this kind of stuff, it's overwhelming. It is just people eventually, and I'm going to say they either give up or they're just like, there's just too many gauges to watch on this. The instrument panel is just so confusing that they're just like, I'm just gonna go eat Cheetos. Like, what does it matter anymore? Like, I can't win this because I'm fighting on multiple fronts. Like, what's the best advice you would give to just a consumer?
It's a wonderful question because there is so much confusion in the marketplace today. I guess what I would say, and I get that question as well, go to the farmer's market and get to know the farmer. Go early in the morning, go a little bit later in the afternoon, not during his peak rush. Not fair to the farmer. He has a finite amount of time to make his income for the week. But go early and go late and get to know that farmer and ask them questions and show a genuine interest in what they're doing. As a general rule, we're all very passionate about what we do, and we want to talk to people about it. When people ask about our life's passion and our life's work, of course we want to share about it. If after 2 or 3 weeks of visiting with that farmer at the farmer's market, they haven't invited you to come out to their farm, run. They're hiding something. I want you to come to the farm. We have over 800 chefs a year come and visit the farm. We learn more from them than they could ever learn from us. Come see how we grow, harvest, package, ship the product.
But that's how it was 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Like 100 years ago, the farmer that grew my food lived down the road.
Yes.
Like we all went to church together, right?
Sure, and there was a level of trust.
There was a community.
We think that your farmer at the local farmer at the farmer's market should be a part of your healthcare team.
I agree with you.
Now, I want to push back a little bit because people say, "Oh my gosh, organic or regenerative or just even good quality food is so much more expensive." Compared to what?
I agree with that.
Compared to junk food or compared to your pharmacy spend?
So
how many people are on blood pressure medicine and diabetics?
100%.
I'll get you off of that stuff, and you'll have twice as much money left at the end of the month, even if you're buying expensive food.
I get asked all the time, what is your favorite biohack? You know, and in this biohack community, right? Like what's your favorite? What are you loving most right now? And I'm like, I have 3. And I'm gonna give you what all 3 of them are. Fasting, walking, and sleep. Like, don't tell me how expensive it is to be healthy.
Right.
Like,
start there.
Absolutely. Like,
and then
start
eat
there.
well.
Just start there. And it's like, because people, I would say we build these barriers, like, you know, and I will say it's this fear of success perhaps. But in that, my father and I actually work with Kroger grocery stores. And it's funny because they have a whole initiative called Food is Medicine. And it's funny to me because like we go on a monthly Zoom call and actually train and talk to their executive team about health and all this kind of stuff. And we could be talking about anything from supplementation to AI to peptides, and you know, invite people to help co-teach some of this stuff as well. But in doing that, it's so funny to me. And I'm like, why are we here teaching you about health? Like, you're the grocery store. Like, the entire premise of this thing is food is medicine. And I 100% agree with food is medicine. But at the same time, like, the people growing your food don't understand the medicine. Like, there's a problem in there. And I read a thing on social media recently, and it resonated with me because it was, if your doctor is giving you a diagnosis without asking about your diet, find another doctor. Like, I can't agree with that anymore. Like, how in the world is a doctor supposed to prescribe or diagnose or do any of these things without understanding the most important factor to our health?
Right.
So, Bob, I can't say thank you enough for joining us today. I love this. I could talk to you for hours and learn, and I want to come to visit the farm.
Please do.
I would love to. Truthfully, I'll be up in Michigan later on next month. Maybe I'll drive down to Ohio.
Come
and
over to
say
the
hi.
light side.
I know, exactly. Go blue. But no, I would love that. Where are you in Ohio?
Right on the lake, halfway between Cleveland and Toledo, very near Cedar Point.
I'm right from Detroit. We used to go to Cedar Point multiple times a year. So that's super close.
You can see the top hill of the biggest coaster from the farm.
Which one is the biggest one now?
Millennium?
Is it
Something
Millennium?
like that.
See, I've been on that one.
I haven't been to Cedar Point in 20 years.
I live in Florida now, but yes, I haven't been to Cedar Point in 20 years. Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate the time.
And in our show notes, we'll put in everything in there, and our team will get all of your handles and everything else so people can follow you, learn more about what's going on with you. Guys, here's the conversation that I want to make sure that we're paying attention to, and that is food is medicine. Like, everything starts with the basic biology of what we're intaking, because if we're not intaking the right things, our physiology doesn't function the way that it should. And if we're intaking the wrong things, we could perhaps be inhibiting our body from even functioning the way it should. And then we get into topics like, we're here at the Metabolic Health Day, metabolic dysfunction, which leads to pretty much the root of every disease that we talk about in the medical community nowadays. So, Bob, like, you're at the forefront of this. I say, like, you're literally at stage 0 of what health is about. Like, you're literally growing the food. I thank you so much for what you're doing for the communities that you do serve, but also for you're here speaking this weekend, talking to people from around the country, perhaps around the world, about what you do. In essence, hoping that they go do similar things and that it inspires other people to do the types of things you're doing. And I thank you for that, because hopefully we can get back to the common sense that we once had, and perhaps this ancient wisdom that we talked about can be reinstituted into society and not kind of shunned. Because I think what we're finding out through science, I mean, I have to believe that Old Testament prophets weren't doing soil testing and looking at the sap quality of the plants. They just followed the rules that they were told to follow. And now we're finding out that those rules perhaps were exactly what they always should have been, and we need to get back there. So thank you for having common sense.
Common sense is not a flower that grows in everybody's garden.
Fair.
That's okay.
Well
I'm
phrased.
blessed to be here representing our farm team on the farm, and glad to be here.
I love
and
that.
learning every day.
Absolutely love that. Take a look down in the show notes and learn more about Bob Jones Jr. and his farm-to-table approach to supporting restaurants with actual healthy food. Imagine that. And follow all of that. But I encourage you, learn more about organic, learn more about regenerative farming, learn more about these things so that we can actually become healthier together. Thank you again, Bob, and we'll see you next time.